Hello, hello, and welcome to Into the MoTaverse. Today I have Tristan Lombard with us. Hello, Tristan. How are you doing today?
Oh, hello, Rosie Sherry. Why, thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I feel like it's been 84 years. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for being a light in the community. I know that people don't always give you your flowers, but I'm here and I see you and we appreciate you. So thank you for having me.
And thank you for saying that. And yeah, I think like everything's tough at the moment. I feel,
Sure.
but I try to go forward with positivity, excitement, and change. And yeah, since I started this podcast, I always had you in the back of my mind to invite on at the right
I'm so
time.
sorry.
So yeah, we go back a while
We
within the
do.
community, and you have a history as a marketeer, as a community person, as a ray of positivity, as someone who just brings joy to everything we do, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, would you like to kind of, for those that don't know you, perhaps
Oh.
introduce yourself?
Sure, I thought you'd never ask, Rosie. Yeah, so I just want to say thank you to everyone who's gotten this far in this recording. My name is Tristan Lombard. I am a stage mom. Think Kris Jenner, ruthless matriarch of the Kardashians and Jenners. I aspire, but I do that for everyone, for quality engineers to developers turned CEOs and founders. I got my background in social work, running youth homeless shelters, former gay homeless youth myself. Woo, woo, woo. And decided to make a pivot into tech. And so kind of worked my way up. I had worked at Sauce Labs, Testem, Provar, and then decided I was going to go solo. And so now what I do is if I were an obnoxious LinkedIn influencer, my tagline would say, well, I mean, I am obnoxious. I don't know about influencer, but I am obnoxious. But if I was really obnoxious, my tagline would say, I make founders famous. So really that's kind of like founder-led marketing. It's helping people build brands of value for their businesses and for themselves, whether it is ghost authoring technical blogs to websites, events, partnerships. But yeah, that's kind of what I do now. I've been doing it for 3 years. And Rosie, what specifically are we talking about today?
Well, before we go there, I'm
Oh,
wondering
please.
what what tagline would you give me? My obnoxious tagline.
Oh, for you. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can you
Mm,
big me up in like a big like obnoxious, outrageous
yeah.
way?
An outrageous tagline for Rosie Sherry.
Reckless,
I would just
reckless
write
joy.
Queen. I would just write Queen of the MOT verse universe. That's what I would just say, Queen of the MOT verse. Like, I feel like that's pretty compelling. You know what I mean? Or I would say, finding both sides of the quality engineering rainbow. We have to workshop that, but I think just Queen of the MOT verse is fine. You know, like Queen of Dragons, Mother of Dragons, something to that effect. Yeah, we could workshop this. We'll workshop it, dear readers. Chime in the comments what obnoxious tagline you would have for Rosie Sherry. We can't wait to find out.
I did have a Mother of Dragons T-shirt at one point, and I loved it.
It feels
Um,
right.
yeah, especially like the five kids kind of angle. It's just like I am the mother of my dragons and the MoTaverse dragons. Maybe I don't know.
I just want one child. I have now over almost like 500 House of Stage mod members, like from this like past decade. I was like, I'm giving my children away now. Just giving my children away. I'm like, please, you two talk to each other. I can't. So yeah, I really just want to adopt one child. That's it. That's it for me. So thank you for your service.
I've got a few. If you want to borrow one of mine or take one.
Well, if they want to come to
Um,
Colombia, they are more than
ah,
welcome. You know, we can, get them some arepas and they can listen to my terrible Spanish. Spoiler alert, Duolingo alone is not enough. Gotta get a Spanish professor, take a class. Sincerely, from me.
but yeah, getting back on topic. We're here today
Please.
to talk about being like a solo entrepreneur, solo
Hmm.
consultant.
Hmm.
And I think like at the moment this is important in the world because like the world is crazy.
Yeah.
Careers are changing. People don't know what to do. They don't know what the next step is.
Hmm.
Layoffs are happening all the time, or even
Yeah.
just working in organizations. It's kind of it feels increasingly hard to like be committed to organizations that aren't committed back to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
There's so many struggles, I think, um, and then there's AI, right? And everything's
I
changing
don't
with
know
AI.
her. I don't know her. Who is
No,
she?
let me introduce you to AI.
We're gonna
um,
get into that, but yeah, to your point,
yeah,
AI.
yeah, and like all roles are changing. Like everywhere I look, it's not unique to quality or testing. It's just all roles are
Hmm.
changing.
Hmm.
um, which to me is partly like as a founder, like, oh, this is interesting. I'm excited to explore new things, but then at the same time, it's like, oh, what does this mean, and how do I, like personally, how do I define the careers of the people that work at MOT? And
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm forever confused what their job title should be because they're almost like changing day to day. Like as a small team, it's like but sometimes like with Simon, like his job title is community lead, but actually he does a lot of product stuff as well. And I don't know whether to get rid of the role of community lead, or do we just leave it, or do job titles even
Everyone's
matter?
adding engineer now, Rosie. Everyone's adding engineer to every title. So you should just go with that trend and see how that goes for you. Yeah. We love you, Simon.
Community engineer,
Uh-huh.
um, CEO engineer, uh, who knows? But yeah,
Hmm.
so like I'm curious, like what's led you to the solo path?
Yeah. I mean, I think, I know like I am. This quote is just so obnoxious, but again, the best quote I ever heard was from one of my social workers, back when I got locked up. And she told me, she said, never make decisions out of fear. Always make decisions out of the belief that it'll better your life and your loved ones. And I had never forgotten that. And that has been my North Star. So to answer your question, we had a significant round of layoffs at my org. And I was like, you know what? I'm really tired of helping white, straight men get to the C suite. I'm tired. Love you all, by the way. Love you so much. But I said, you know what? I'm going to do my own thing. I had a very lovable white straight man tell me, Tristan, never call yourself a stage mom. No one will ever take you seriously. It's going to hurt your job opportunities. And I wanted to tell you that because I care about you. And I'm sure he did. But that was kind of just that opportunity. I had really fought my way up. I always thought I wanted to become a CMO one day. I never really had delusions about becoming a chief community officer. I was like, the role even exists. But I thought that I could claw my way up the corporate ladder. I'd spent a decade doing social work. And so I came into tech, with a undergrad at Berkeley, a master's at Columbia. And like that meant nothing because I had to claw my way up. And when they had these layoffs, I finally got back to being a manager again. I used to run teams back in social work. So I was so excited for that. When these layoffs in the org happened, it was devastating. And shout out to all of you leaders, who have not only been laid off, in the quality space, but also had your teams too. You feel a sense of, I couldn't defend them all. But I had my white girl eat, pray, love moment, in the Philippines. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start this. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And so that was over 3 years ago. And, you got to put up the bat signal first. And we're going to get into some of those steps, But I would not have been able to put up my bat signal and have a ton of people start DMing me about contracting gigs if I didn't have a presence already on LinkedIn, if I wasn't already giving back and engaged in my different communities, and if I also didn't have a little bit of an understanding of some of the things that I was good at. Um, so that's kind of what started that journey. And by the way, full disclosure, and we were talking about this before we hit record, but this is not one of those Tristan knows everything. This is really just for any of you. I really hope you leave this conversation with a few pragmatic steps that you can take to maybe try something new and to start your own journey as a solopreneur if you've ever thought about it before. But I wanted to say, learn from my mistakes. is really what the theme of this is. And I think to your point too, like I do believe in data, and I am in the middle of a product launch, so it's a little hectic. But I did, just bringing in some data here. I was talking to Rosie about this earlier, but in the U.S. alone, 29.8 million people in the U.S. now are running solo businesses, and that's generating 1.7 trillion in revenue, which is 6.8% of the U.S. economic output, and that's from the U.S. Census and Founders Reports from January of this year. But I also want to dispel this idea that the whole solopreneur game is just for Gen Z. It's not. I was doing some quick research. Thank you, former speech and debate and model UN. We do it on the fly. But there's a stereotype that it's the younger generation. It's not. It's actually Gen X and boomers. This is per Branch MasterCard Solopreneur Report from January 2026. But 64% of solopreneurs now are over 45 years old, 66% self-fund. And a big part of that, 61%, the reason why they did it was freedom. The other part was autonomy. But I do think it's important for the context of this space. We are seeing lots of organizations. We saw Atlassian cut 1,600 jobs in March 11th of this year, right? We've seen specifically how QA roles are being very vulnerable because organizations are thinking that AI is going to just make it easy, blah, blah, blah. What I want for people to take out of this, though, is that your quality engineering leadership and domain expertise are not something that you need to brush aside and try and reinvent yourself to be an AI engineer or, go to customer success or become whatever they're calling one of those forward deployment engineers, which I think is kind of disrespectful because it's like very battle motivated. And I'm like, y'all are not on the battle lines taking bullets. But anyway, the point is, there is a different path for you. If you want to reimagine your careers, 100% do that. I did that, and I'm sure I'll do it again. But there is still a great need for you and your skills and becoming a solopreneur. Now, I don't have children. I don't got a mortgage yet. And so people are going to maybe listen to this and say, okay, easy for you to say, Tristan. But I do want to bring up a compelling case too, is that, in the US alone, Black women have been hurt disproportionately in the tech space. But they're out here building their own empires right now as solopreneurs, right? So part of it is to tell people too, yes, the world is scary. And like you're thinking about all these things going on right now. And you're like, great. And now I want to just try another thing and jump off a cliff. You're not doing that. There are steps you can take if you are actually thinking about doing solopreneur work that I think would be helpful. And this is based off of my own experience. This is also based off of, my 8 clients that I serve. This is based off for 3+ years now. This is based off of a lot of conversations that I have with people. So I'm more than happy to share some tips and tricks, but I don't want to take over the whole thing because I know you asked some great questions, Rosie.
Yeah, what do you think from like a quality
Tell
and
me.
testing perspective?
Mhm.
What do you think people need to pitch as a service, and like how does it differ like from perhaps like a full-time employee's
Mhm.
position? Are there specific things we should perhaps be focusing on rather than just
Mhm.
saying, "Oh, I can show up and I've got these skills"? It's more like packaging something up that's of value.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm really watching my I'm watching my tongue here. But all I will say is if you are still offering just agile as a service, sorry, babe.
Yeah.
Love you. Love you. Sorry, babe. If you're offering Scrum just as a service, sorry, babe. Love you. You have to think about what do I have right now and what am I known for? Right. So Scrum could be part of it. Agile could be part of it, right? But what is what does the market need specifically? And where am I willing to stretch? Like, for example, for me, like when I started, and it's going to come back to your question, I promise, but when I started doing solopreneur stuff, I was like, oh, I've done build a lot of communities from scratch. So I'm just going to build some more communities. I'm really good at this. But that's not what people were coming to me for. They were coming
Yeah.
to me because there were other things that they had seen that I had done from following me on LinkedIn and or word of mouth and or working with me in the past. So they were coming to me for very, very different services than what I thought I was going to go into. So I think part of it is acknowledging what you are known for, what you're good at, and where does the market need you and where you need to stretch, right? So if we're thinking right now, if I were to give any advice to anyone in the quality engineering space who was thinking about solopreneurship, one of the biggest gaps that I see our markets really, really need right now is security. It is security through and through. We do not have any governance. I'm not going to go into details about AI codes, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to do all that. What I will say though is that is creating a ton of gaps and we need someone to mine the gaps. So where are you coming in with governance strategy for quality, minding the security gaps while at the same time leading with AI strategy, right? Those pieces are really missing. Those are some what routes you can take, but here's another route. Go-to-market teams do not have enough conversations with quality engineers. They don't. So how can you start thinking about interacting more with CFOs, with CROs, VPs of sales, marketing leaders, and really talking about the value of their products, really talking about those use cases, what differentiates their product, right? That is a huge area that I don't see enough people in the testing community think about. People are so hung up on, quality, which yes, is so important, but girl, you got to get paid. You got to get paid. You are out here for 2 years applying to jobs. You are standing in the rain getting wet, and you're like, why am I wet right now? Go build something. Go build
Sorry.
something. Sorry.
Yeah.
I am a stage mother first and foremost. I can only listen to people for so long before I'm like, ahora mismo. Sorry, back to you.
No, but it's pretty amazing. Like, a lot of people have been out of work, and that is
Sure,
tough.
it
But
is.
at the same time, it's like, well, some of them are out of work for a long time, and it's like
Yeah.
if continually applying for jobs isn't working, you got to try to do something else, right? You got to at least even if you don't go down the solopreneur route, is there
Mhm.
any harm in trying to explore avenues to at least build your network? If you
Mhm.
don't end up going and doing solo work, at least you're building your network as you go, and that might even lead to a job, right? But I feel like there's often this attitude of like
Yeah.
you keep applying for jobs and then nothing happens, and the world has changed, right? So it's like we
Mhm.
gotta we gotta find different ways, better ways, and I've been independent, I guess most of my adult life.
How
Um,
does that feel, Rosie? Do you feel that freedom,
uh,
the autonomy, and the stress?
oh, a different kind of freedom,
Uh huh.
definitely levels of stress.
For
Uh,
sure.
as things grow, you almost feel a bit more tied down. But
Hmm.
yeah, there's all sorts. But creativity, choices every day. I think that's
Hmm.
what I love the most at the moment. Is like
Hmm.
I'm not a solopreneur. There's 7, 8 of us that we hire full time
You do.
as employees. So with that comes a sense of responsibility.
For sure.
Um, I have to be, I have to apply care to and protect the people as much as I
Hmm.
can. That's how I think about business. I know that's not how everyone thinks about business.
As we
Um,
read the headlines, yes.
but yeah, for me, yeah, I don't know. For me, it's a lot of it increasingly is applying that solo mindset, but for a
Yeah.
small company. Is like I have to have creative freedom. I have to show up and do things that I love. I
And
almost feel
experiment.
experiment. I have to experiment. It's like I almost it massively like
Mm.
impacts my mood if I can't experiment. Well, I see
Mm.
opportunity, and you're like, I want this. I have to have this. Um, and but yeah, I guess
But going back to
it's
networking, going back to
yeah,
networking.
networking is so important, right?
Hmm.
And I've definitely spoken to people like at meetups recently where they say things like, "Oh, this is the first meetup I've been to in like 6 years." And they say
Yeah.
that with deep regret. And they were like, "Yeah, I've just been laid off, and now I'm coming to a meetup." Um, and it's just like it's the wrong time, right? And they recognize at that point that they say things like, "I should have been doing this all along, but I didn't because of X, Y, Z."
It's a lot of that too, is that people just don't always necessarily budget the time because they make their work their entire personality. We've seen, countless relationships fall apart, not just in the testing community, but, with friends and loved ones when you make work your entire personality. And then on top of that too, when you don't budget that time for that networking, I always tell people community is the scaffolding for your entire life. And when you don't build that scaffolding and parts of your life fall apart, you're going to fall, and you're going to fall pretty hard. So having that community as scaffolding, and it's not just like, it's not a take situation, my success, and I'm very grateful and I feel very humbled sometimes I am too humbled. um, but it wouldn't be without all that good karma that I've done along the way. I see so many people applying for jobs, and we're going to come to this networking in a second because I want to give people some pragmatic tips. But people are out here and they are applying for all of these jobs and wasting all of this time. And I'm like, okay, you could have taken 30 minutes to give back some good karma, have a virtual coffee with someone else who's in a similar situation, maybe even a little bit lower in the mood stakes than you because they don't have the same support as you. And maybe that would actually make you feel a little bit better. There's tons of UCLA psychological studies about when people are down, listening to other people's problems actually lifts your mood back up. So it's giving that karma. I make a point every single month. I budget so many hours for good karma. Like I charge $195 an hour. We'll talk about pricing for other people later in some pricing models. But I know that while I could be making that $195 an hour, I will never ever be able to put a price tag on some of that good karma. You know what I mean? So when it comes to networking for people, yeah, you're talking about those meetups, and that's so important. But also, so many other people are already at those meetups looking for jobs. That's one avenue. In person does matter for connection. It makes you feel good, right? So definitely lean into that. But it also helps you for content. So the thing is, for people, like, if there was one piece of advice, like if I could just tell people one thing about what is needed, like to remember about anything for solopreneurship, it's that 83, I think it was like from Hootsuite, I forget which stat, but it was Forbes. Anyway, for B2B buyers, right? 83% of that business happens on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a prime location for you to build your brand of value, not a personal brand. I can't stand that. I hate that term. I hate it. A brand of value, as I've said before to so many people, and I will reiterate this until I'm in the grave. A brand of value is when you are authentically sharing value, connecting people to each other and opportunities, and adding a little bit of your humanity and leadership into your posts. So by having those three buckets, 20% is your products and our services, right? And you can communicate that through past outcomes. So maybe if you're just starting off and you haven't had a career before, solopreneurship, which you could say is, hey, I let me tell you a story about how, we increased efficiencies by this, much, during a release, or tell a story outside of yourself, but something that demonstrates a lesson learned, some value. It's really hard, I feel like, for a lot of people to talk about themselves. They feel like they're bragging. Girl, if you don't toot your own horn, don't expect anyone else to. But I get it that it feels like, ew, cringe. Sorry, girl. That's just some of it. I'm sorry. So tell stories outside of yourself, about yourself and your teams, past clients that you all worked with. That's super helpful. That's the products and services 20%. The next part is that 50%, right? That's the ecosystem that you reside in, right? So if you're in the testing space, but also there's AI advancements, right? There's resharing other leaders' content out there. Spoiler alert, you need to have a larger following for solopreneurship. It's just a fact. I don't make the rules. So LinkedIn is your number one distribution channel. It's also your website. Do not get caught up trying to make a website. I have so many domains. And nothing with them. I've done nothing with them. I see the GoDaddy bill come every year, and I'm like, okay, I guess that's a tax write-off. I don't know. A dream deferred. But the point is that your LinkedIn is your website. That is how people are going to know you. So when you're thinking about that as your primary distribution channel, this is an opportunity for you to start resharing that content, resharing from leaders that you admire. In a world of content creators, we need more content curators. So you don't always need to create original stuff from scratch, but by resharing authentically from other people that you trust and know, that's going to help improve your follower count. It's going to build those authentic relationships with other leaders that down the line you could help, maybe see if there's some kind of synergy. I hate to use that term, but in this case, I think it applies. And then the last bucket is the hashtag leadership piece. That's the humanity part of your brand of value. That is a simple meetup photo, right? Where you went to that meetup. What was one thing that you learned? It's going to, an MOT virtual event and like sharing what you learn from that and thanking the speaker, right? But having those three buckets, your products and services, the ecosystem you reside in, and your leadership side, that humanity, that's what a brand of value is. It's not a personal brand. Now, I do want to just caution people here too, is that, I ghost author for a lot of CEOs and founders in addition to like part-time running their entire marketing orgs. And so I was going to a conference in Raleigh last year. Shout out to Dreaming in Color. We love you, Tiffany Spencer. But I was going to that and I was like sleep deprived. And I was on the plane. I was like checking my clients' posts that I had made. And I was like, why is it that always the posts that do the best are photos of them? I hate this narcissistic behavior. Do I have to become one of those like influencer it girls, who's like taking like selfies in the mirror? I don't want to do it. And then it hit me. It's about connection. People want to see the leaders behind the technical solutions and innovations. They want to have a relationship with you as a consumer. So do not be afraid to bring in that humanity side, right? Put down your keyboards for a second, take some photos of you at an event. Give people a little bit of a window into your life, but you cannot endear people to you if they don't know a little bit about you. Right. And you'd be surprised. I know there's that whole like spotlight effect and everyone's like, oh, no one's looking at me. I'm on my own. People are watching, babe. I got a LinkedIn premium. People are watching. Right. And do not think that just because, and I do want to make sure I'm covering a few other steps for people too about offerings and kind of that piece. But what I would just say for the LinkedIn piece too is like, know the difference between comments and reshares. I always tell people just hit the reshare and comment below. 56% of people found me in the past 90 days in my profile via my comments. Those are important. Yeah. And anyone who tells you that they know the LinkedIn algorithm is a liar. And it changes all the time. So just be ready to present a side of yourself, your expertise and your domain knowledge, resharing for other people, but also giving a little bit of that humanity. That's how you increase your following. That's how you start to open up new opportunities. But I think the other part that's really important too is we talked a little bit before about what are those offerings. Again, I've said this before, think about what you're really good at. Think about what people know you for and think about where the market is going and find that mixture and do some experimentation. And you may say, well, I don't know what I'm good at. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. But what do people know me to be good at? That's a good vibe check. That's a good vibe check to get some of your besties in the community. Have a conversation. When you get that vibe check, maybe you realize there's parts of your stuff that, I don't know. Like people still call me a community person. I'm like, I think I just love people, but I never really fit in the community space. I wasn't here for the emojis. I like some emojis. The like high fives, it was just too much touchy-feely. And I never felt like I was technical enough to be like a developer advocate. So I really kind of just felt like I was somewhere in the in-between. But I just love people and I love technology and I also love data and I like to build stuff. So like some people still see me as like a community manager. I'm like, babe, to quote RuPaul, call me what you want, just call me. But if the checks are clearing, I will take it. Some of my clients call me a social media manager. And I'm like, in my 20s, I would have been bothered. In my 30s, I'm like, girl, the checks are clearing. You can call me what you want. But the point is, when you're thinking about your offerings, do some of those vibe checks with people, do a little bit of that analysis, and then start having conversations with people. And, I think the part where people are like, okay, I feel like I have a little bit of an idea of what some of my offerings are. I feel like I can know a little bit about the market. I am trying some new tools to position myself and strengthen those areas. How do I start to get clients? That's the hard part. And this is where I see people fail the most. They get stuck on building a personal website, swipe left. They get stuck on posting content no one wants to see. I'm so sorry, y'all. But like, I was talking to a lovely leader the other day who's gone solo, and I was like, babe, I love you so much, but you're giving me Y2K vibes with the same static imagery and AI saturation. This is why you're not getting the engagement that you want and that you deserve for your business. So really thinking about being intentional about the content that you're sharing and or resharing. And the other part too is like, you've got to engage with other people. Sure, you can go to a virtual meetup, chime in the chat, take a picture after a selfie, like say what you learned. That's great. You can go in person, and, network with people, share some of those learnings too. But it's about being of value. But you also need to engage with other people's content. If you are not adding value, and I am not encouraging these Gen AI outputted comment responses, I am
Oh
not
my God.
encouraging that. Can we hold
Yeah.
space? Can we hold space?
Oh,
Ooh,
yeah.
ooh.
I can't bear it. I can't. Yeah, everything about AI is kind of troubling.
We're
Especially
losing the
like
humanity.
we are, and like everything that I'm doing is almost thinking about the opposite of that. Is the
Hmm.
whole world is talking about AI, but I'm almost like today in conversation, we were
Mm.
getting spammed basically in MOT. Just
Any
it
good? Any good
happens.
spam? Any good spam?
No, it's WhatsApp, kind of like trying to. I
Yeah.
don't even know what it was. I don't get it. I honestly don't get most of the stuff, but most of
Hmm.
it is marketing spam. Just because anyone can sign up for an account, they try to sign up for an account to promote themselves and companies. And I
On
think they're
behalf
just
of
another.
everyone, I
Yeah,
apologize.
yeah. But I think we're on a list somewhere that recommends us as a place to go to get a free link. But we're pretty good at removing it. But
You are.
yeah, today we were talking about like a humanity button or I am human button.
Hmm.
And the fact that we even have to like talk about that is like, the world is changing. We have to design things differently. We have to do things differently. We have to
Hmm.
change everything about our business, basically.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
it's wild. Partly it's wild and stressful. Partly it's wild and exciting. But we're going with the idea that we have to change, and
Hmm.
some people won't understand why we're changing. But I'm not letting this AI slop,
No.
AI bots, and anything in basically is our policy. It's like we're not standing for it, and it means creating boundaries and
Correct.
doing things differently, and not everyone will agree, but so
Wasn't it
be it.
your brilliant quote though? So be it, and thank you. But you one of my favorite quotes from you was years ago, and I think this was like, God, I think this was back when Twitter, formerly known as X, when I was still on that. But you made somebody comment, and you said there aren't enough boundaries in tech. And I will never forget that. There are not. There really aren't,
Yeah.
especially with AI. But you're doing that. But I think going back to the humanity piece for people too, there was a stat from, eMarketer Big Villager from last year, and it said 32% of people don't trust corporate brands that use Gen AI. So I always tell people, why do you think your branded value is any different? I use AI all the time, every day. I love it. I also have read Karen Howell's, Empire of AI, and I am aware and conscientious, and I do my best to make my prompts nice and tight. But I think that this is the best frickin' time for anyone to consider solopreneurship.
Mm.
I have, well, I spend way too much on AI solutions, and I wish I could do something about this. But like, I can turn around and write a technical brief. I can turn around, with like data backed. I can turn around and do like an SEO strategy. I can get on Runway now, and I can create really, really freaking cool videos for my clients, right? Like, that creativity is unlocked. And I love that. I also know my gaps, and I know when I need to hire other contractors. I do not have an ego about anything except grammar, and that is my student loan debt speaking. So my point is that just like this is a great time for people to experiment. But what I would say as well for people, we talked a little bit about the offerings, right? We talked a little bit about building your following. We talked a little bit about networking, brand, and value. The piece that I really feel like people trip up on, it's the DMs. This is where you lose people. This is where I see messy boots house down. I hate it. People will add you, and then in that exact second, y'all are like, so, do you need financial planning? So, are you looking for real estate? So, tell me about your ADHD and how I can help. I will murder you, life coaches. I swear to God, I will murder. That is why I'm going to jail. Like, stop your predatorial nonsense. I get it. Checks got to happen. I've been held to quotas too, right? But like, this is specifically for solopreneurs. You've got to play the long game. You cannot build a house of trust without a foundation of time. I always told that to my clients back when I was a social worker, and I believe this here and now. If you have targets that you're going after, your ICP, as the marketers call it, your ideal customer profile. Okay, great. Mark down 10 in each lane for each one of your 3 offerings, right? Go after it, get it. But are you authentically engaging with their content? Are you resharing it? And not doing it in like a, Gen AI comment below, or not just doing it in like, oh, but what do you think about this? If you don't authentically care, don't do it. But you need to authentically be resharing. I say this from a community perspective because, I had built community programs from scratch. I did not have really any support except my lovely designer. Otherwise, I was a woman on an island alone. And I knew that I had to bring in quality for my community members, and I had to bring in great speakers. So don't think I'm cold and calculated, people. I'm warm and calculated. And so I would authentically have a hit list of people that I wanted. I would be sharing and engaging with their content, but also because I liked it and I thought it would be beneficial for my community. So like, you should be doing the same thing when you're thinking about people who could either be a referral for you, or when you're thinking about people that could potentially be a future client. The other fact I would make too when it comes to that biz dev piece is when you're sliding into their DMs, I need you to have engaged with their content first. You need to have a runway. You need to have had some kind of virtual digital footprint and or relationship with each other in some way. So at least they know who you are. Otherwise, stranger danger, ew, block, done. I don't want it. So I think that piece is important, and offering value in that DM. You know what I mean? Like, for example, whenever I have someone, like when I was trying to get a speaker, or I was like, because I love celebrating leaders, I love celebrating engineering authors. These are just things that I love to do. I've been running a book club now for 5+ years. Shout out to Near Johnny, I love you, co-host with the most. And I genuinely love to celebrate authors. So sometimes I'll slide into their DMs and I'll say, hey, so-and-so, we started reading your book. Shout out to Near y'all. Beyond Belief is actually happening next. We mixed up with engineering strategy testing, and, the beyond part is, I guess, leadership. But the point is, like, I'll slide into their DMs and I'll say, hey, we're so excited to discuss your new book. Wondering if you'd be open to, just sharing a quick video and like telling us, why you wrote this book and what you hope they get out of it. Like, you would be surprised, y'all, how those types of DMs go over so much better. Or another option you can do for that recruiting strategy, because you're not always going to close a deal. But again, what I tell people, and this is for anyone looking for a job, you can't control the final outcome. You can control the number of virtual coffees you have with people you don't know. You can control the number of virtual and or networking events you go to, and you can control the number of posts feed your brand of value. Those are outcomes you can control to lead you to that path as a solopreneur to get your first client. What I would also say is it's important, going back to the DMs too, you can offer something. So that's what I lead with people I don't know. I say, hey, I really loved your post about X, or I loved your blog, or I loved your talk. I know you're super busy, and I'm just wondering if you'd be open to a virtual coffee at a time that would work best for you. I drop my Calendly link and I say, I'd love to discuss X. In return, if you want any advice about X, Y, and Z, this is what I'm bringing to the ball. And I say, sincerely, Tristan, aka Stage Mom. I have had such effective conversations from those words and from those personalized messages. And I make it easy for them to connect. And some of them, they don't respond. Wait one more time and then keep it moving. Life's busy, but you got to keep moving forward towards your goals. Once you're on that conversation, let them know what you're about. And I always tell people too, if someone is giving you their time and they're more senior than you and they're open to it, take a quick selfie, of like them together and share what you learned. Amplify other people's knowledge, right? But if you remember nothing when it comes to to building the brand of value, to getting to conversion of some point, you need to make sure that you are leading with value first and foremost, that you are also contributing good karma back to your community and taking time for other people. And what I would say lastly too is like, you're not always going to get someone to convert right away. I got one of my clients just because I wanted to celebrate their book authentically. And they introduced me to someone else. And I've been with that client now for 2 years. And that's just one of my many clients, that came from just genuinely wanting to do good karma and putting myself out there. And I would say, too, when you have those conversations with people, ask them for someone else to introduce you to. That's it. You can have a one pager, right? You can have a one pager of some of your offerings. Sure. But I'm going to let you know a little secret. I don't have a website. No, I don't have a one pager. I don't. I post about things that I know I'm good at, that other people, and there is a market value out there. That's that 20% that, babes, you got to get into that. The other thing I would say too is I bill like a law firm. I bill like a law firm. I'm always honest. If I'm using AI and something, I can get that done now, in 0.25 of an hour less. That's what I'm billing y'all for. That's what I'm billing y'all for. Honesty is not something that like I don't take honesty lightly and trust lightly. I'm really, really grateful for my clients. But I would say I bill like a law firm in 0.25 increments. That's what I do. I do not do retainers. I think retainers are a hindrance for adoption.
Why is that? Why is that?
I think
Yeah.
they are because your client runs away. The client will run away, right? So if you're working on a specific project, maybe it is around AI enablement, maybe it is around quality training, whatever have you, and there are specific milestones and there are specific amount of contracted hours, and you have in your contract that if you go over that, this is what the rate is hourly. Sure, babe, get the retainer. But I've seen so many people lose opportunities because they had an absorbently high retainer. They had not built trust yet with the client, so the client ran away. So for me, I make it super easy. I bill at the end of every month. I bill in 0.25-hour increments. I have a breakdown of what I've done in each part. Maybe it's design, maybe it's video content, maybe it's technical blog authorship, maybe it's talk creation, maybe it's marketing partnerships, maybe it's SEO, et cetera, et cetera. I'm specific and I just bill like a line item. That's what I do. It's transparent. You get it at the end of every month. That's what I do. Tip though for everybody, please add a 5% after 30-day late fee. Learn from me. Yeah. And what I would also say is like when you're starting out, you're going to have some terrible, terrible clients. One of my first clients was the absolute worst. I'm not going to go into it. That is the only bridge I've ever burned, but I learned so much from it. You have to have boundaries. Some clients will so many of my clients are founders and CEOs, and like they want to have a conversation. They want to have a connection. But in the process, you will get burned out, right? We talked about this before. There was another stat in there that I pulled up, but we talked about autonomy. We talked about freedom, but also per Asana, Bankrate, Owl Labs, and Carta reports here, it said 59% of solopreneurs report work-life imbalance, 50% feel buried in admin, 35% report high stress, 43% don't have 3 months emergency savings. These things are important. Lucy Liu calls it F it money, so that you are able to turn down something. So when you're starting off as a solopreneur, a lot of people say, don't start this if you're unemployed. And I'm like, babe, I used to have to sell drugs. I was homeless. You do what you got to do. Like when I was a teenager, I was a hustler. I did what I had to do. Don't let this face fool you. So the point is, do what you got to do, but you got to put yourself out there. And I know we're coming up on time in a little bit here too, but I really just hope that this inspires some people. Like the world is scary enough right now. You don't need to scare yourself out of opportunities. If you have consistently tried to apply for jobs and you are not getting the results that you need and deserve, you got to try another lane, babe.
What would you say are
Oh,
good boundaries to have with your clients? Like, there's bad clients and good clients. How would you define a bad client And how would you
Oh.
define a good one?
Well, those are two questions.
Mm.
The theme, everyone, the theme about this was learned from Tristan's mistakes. He does not pretend to be an expert. But to answer your part about the boundaries first, and then to go into the client second, the boundaries part, I was taking calls on the weekends. I was responding to text messages with highly personal information that was better off for their therapist. I was not licensed. It got to the point where it was abusive, and I had to learn something about myself in that moment, and I had to take accountability for my dynamic that I let happen as as a chronic people pleaser, recovering and relapsing. But you have to name the condition. And so we would like to solution engineer, right? That's what solopreneurs do. That's what builders do, and founders and people who love humans. So you're always trying to make it easier for them. And in the process, you lose yourself. I wasn't sleeping. I was not eating well. I was highly irritable. I was burnt out. And I let this person impact me so much so that I had to put boundaries and I had to end that. And I learned from that experience what's a good client and what's a bad client for me. Part of that is, to quote Brene Brown, I know I always say this, but clear is kind, unclear is unkind. So if you had an SOW together, you need to stick to that. Elizabeth Hendrickson talks about that all the time in her work, and I just love that woman and leader so much. Babe, not in the SOW. Sorry. We can revisit the agreement, but it's not in our agreement. So I think, clearing and being clear about that. When you write up a contract, you can step away. You really can step away. You got to make sure you get all these deliverables, though, y'all. See me fighting with another client's contractor today for more information. But it's fine. It's fine. So when you're answering that question about good versus bad clients, what gets you excited? I do a lot of things for clients that like all I want to be doing is writing. I just want to be doing my blogs. I just want to write. But here I am, I've got to do the admin stuff, and I've got to, track these links, and I got to do the data, the reports. So there are things that you just got to do to make your clients happy, but it's about the business. When a good client to me is someone who you have a rapport with. I know it's cheesy, but when presidential elections come around, who'd you have a beer with? I want to work with someone who I'd have a beer with, or kombucha if you don't drink alcohol, whatever. But the point is that it should be someone that you feel aligned with their mission. I really feel like to be a solopreneur, at least for me working with CEOs and founders, I have to feel their pain. I have to feel those business points. I have to see where we can optimize. I have to be invested. But what I would tell people is be careful. I never just have one client. That's something else I learned in my long list of, I haven't cussed once on this podcast. I'm so proud of myself. Wow. But I've really been working. But I would just say, learning from my long list of mess ups, it's that you don't want to just have one client. You need to think about how you're building your client portfolio. You need to think about that. I'm just being mindful of time. 1 second. Oh, I'm okay. You want to be mindful of having your enterprise, your mid-market, your self-serve. The self-serve, not so much. So thinking about having a mixture of a portfolio, right? So I've got a lot of clients in the Salesforce ecosystem, ISV founders, if you will. I've also got, amazing women engineering leaders who run their own consultancies. I also have, C-suite members of different companies who just want some of that founder-led marketing advice. So I have different categories. I think, Christina Gartner, who I just love so much, she talks about, do you want my brain and or do you want my hands? And that's the part, right? Do you want me just for strategy, or do you need me to also execute? So knowing some of those differentiators early on with them is helpful. But I hope that helps. But think about people as your enterprise, mid-market, and self-serve, because if you try and treat everyone with the same level of customer service, you will burn yourself right to the ground.
I love the brain and hands analogy. It makes it really clear, right? It's it just helps people think through what is it that we can actually work on together. And as you say, clear is kind. One final question, perhaps.
Oh,
I was
yes.
just as part of all of this is you have a clear well, clearish, I guess,
Yeah,
sector
don't
of
give me any
people.
credit. Yeah.
You
Sorry.
have this ecosystem, right? You dip into various
Yes.
spaces. You have a book
Hmm.
club. You
Hmm.
talk about like LinkedIn DMs and
Hmm.
outreach. Do you
Hmm.
have a, s- a specific way that you do that? Do you create a list of people that you want to reach out to, or in your book club, for example, do you review a book
Hmm.
intentionally because you're interested, but you're also potentially interested in reaching out to the author, and you have a nice excuse to lean into that? Um, like, how what's your thinking behind your strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I really wish that I could call myself that calculated. No, I think there's a few different pieces there. I am chronically online. It is my job, right? So I've helped people who nobody even knew about become these, big names in our testing community in the Salesforce ecosystem, and it's a pride and a joy. And I stay over here and I don't take the credit. Like but I know when they're doing my lines that I've given them, I'm like, proud of you, babe. Proud of you. Um, I think for me, it's always about, will this be of value to other people? That is my North Star. Will this be of value to other people, whether it is a business, whether it is the consumer of the books, the content, and or the creator? Will this be of value? So if it's a book, I'm looking up, on Amazon, I'm looking up, last 90 days, I'm looking up, ratings, but I'm really thinking to myself, is this aligned with the book club charter that we had created? Will it be of value? I don't always get it right, but I try and get those new books because I really want to support those early stage authors. Same thing with founders. I want to support those early stage founders. I want to make sure that they're getting, that support. If there is an opportunity, for sure. But I will tell people, and this isn't a flex, this is just a fact. I have never, ever done any outbound for clients. Everyone has come to me. And the reason for that has been compounded good karma, value adds, and celebrating others authentically. There is a world where that can happen for you all. But if you're not putting yourself out, no one will know what you're about. That means putting content on LinkedIn. That means sharing, what you've learned and lessons. So no, I don't. I am calculated when I'm thinking about, a speaker series, but I'm doing that through the vein of wanting to create value for other people. Also celebrate that leader. If my client's happy, I mean, that's also the goal. But I think that those other two things can happen first, and my client will be happy from that result, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's good. It's somewhat calculated, but not calculated, which is kind of how I operate as well. It's like it's more alignment, right? It's like thinking about who you want
With
to
your
be
values.
with your values,
Hmm.
the boundaries that you've set, and
Hmm.
yeah, just designing them around that, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Tristan. Any final words before we wrap up?
Yeah, I want to say to every single, amazing person and leader in the quality engineering space right now who may have gotten this far down this Rosie Tristan, fun river, it, please, please start making a list of what you are good at, what you are known to be good at, and where there is an opportunity in the market. Please start making that list. Please don't isolate yourself behind a keyboard at 3 a.m. reading rejection automated emails. If you are consistently applying for jobs, I beg you, I ask you to just try and envision a world where you could be your own boss. It does not come without risks. So if you are risk averse, this is not the profession for you. But if you love to have autonomy, freedom, opportunity for creativity, this is definitely an avenue you can explore. And if it doesn't work out for you, at least you know you tried. La vida es muy corta. Life is very short. So like, let's try and make it a little bit more joyful. That's what I would say. And that's all I have from Stage Mom here.
Muchas gracias, Tristan. And we'll see you in the MoTaverse. Nos
I'll see
vemos
you in the
en la
metaverse.
MoTaverse.
Exactamente. And thank you so much for the scholarships and all that you do, by the way. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I really, really appreciate you. And it's always good to see you, Rosie. Ta ta for now. Mwah.